Amigos, bienvenidos a Latino USA Television and of course Barrio Stories, launching our series from Tucson, Arizona. Raul Aguirre, quien les habla, la voz para nuestras comunidades. This new show, and thanking of course Gil, Roman Reyes, Dr. Jose Leiva, who've been doing this Barrio Stories for about 3 years. And today we're going to have some wonderful guests, particularly important in the education and also in government. His name is Steve Holmes, Esteban Holmes, Steve Holmes, and well known in our community in Tucson. And we'd like to welcome him to the show. Steve, bienvenido. Tell us, this is about telling you our stories, the importance of oral traditions, and of course, tell me how do you go from La Reforma, county chambers, government housing, to being the assistant deputy for Pima County. Bienvenido.
Bien, muchas gracias, Raul. Good to see you as always. Always welcome here to talk a little bit about kind of this whole journey of mine, right? Yeah, I grew up, born and raised in county chambers, which was La Reforma, moved to Sunnyside School District, grew up in that community.
It's now called Lalo Guerrero neighborhood,
so
right?
big shifts there. Musician, right? That's kind of what drove me and kind of inspired me. I grew up with my grandparents and my mother, kind of lived there. I think there was always this real push for education in my household. I remember my nana and tata every week taking us as young children, my brother and I, to the Valencia Library. If you know the Valencia Library, right in Sunnyside, the really kind of bookstore, very book-oriented, had bilingual books there. My grandparents would check out a whole stack, I remember that, and forcing us to bring books home, right? You think about kind of the priorities of education. I think it started really young for us, from two parents who immigrated late in their lives here to Tucson, Arizona. So
from where?
Proud. My nana's from Magdalena's from Sonora. That's where they married. My tata was a celador. And so we'd make our...
What is a celador?
So it's a kind of a border agent, right. Specifically in the Nogales border.
Like a customs agent.
Customs agent, correct. Yeah. And so I remember he'd have a pension, so we'd go every month down to Nogales, like many of us, right, get those white wall haircuts where they cut over your ears and go get food over at the VH, and so that was kind of and medication, right, medicines, right. And so that's been our trip. So in my roots, right, was this real deep fondness for our community, our Chicano community, and our border relationships, right, and so that was instilled in me. And interesting enough, not a lot of music in our family, but got really tied into the love of music. Played in rock bands back in high school. Right. My hair down here, people recognize me and know what I'm doing now.
Me too. I used to have that hair.
Yeah, so it's fun, right? People just talk about it, and even people that see me now in this role, they're like, "Weren't you the dude that had long hair and played in the rock bands?" Play these backyard parties, and but it was fun. It was engaging. There was a huge Chicano rock scene back in the mid '80s. Just a lot of kids from Pueblo, from Choya, from Sunnyside, who were playing all this rock and roll, right? And going from that changes, but that locked me into kind of this experience now, and got me really into education and teaching, right? Which we met.
That's how I met you. Yeah, I met you as a teacher at Grassroots Bilingual School.
Yes, exactly. My first year of teaching, your daughter Marisol was in that class. Again, we talk about apologizing because we're never good as first-year teachers, but it was then that I was actually working in Hermosillo, working music stores, and Conrado Gomez, Dr. Conrado Gomez, who wanted a mariachi program. So he hired me, say, "I want you to put together a mariachi program." And I'm soy rockero, man. I'm like playing drums. I mean, we play guitar, right? We grew up playing classical guitar and doing that work. But the Davis mariachi, right under Dr. Valenzuela, was prominent, and none of the kids were going to the feeders into these bilingual schools, right, because there was not an affinity towards the music, right? So that was the big gap that Dr. Gomez wanted me to fill, which is, hey, put a mariachi program together. And so here we are right now, 28 years later.
Right, and Conrado had gone from Davis bilingual to Grassroots bilingual.
That's right.
As principal, right?
And always wanted to do this. So they had a music teacher, but I gotta tell you this, they went through like 5 subs, right? The music teacher quit. They just said, the kids, some middle school kids, right? And so those are always a challenge, and So I come in as a long-term sub in the middle of the year, right? And then, you know, the whole joke was like, okay, let's see if another one, they eat through another teacher. But no, I think, you know, building relationships, I was young, I think trying to engage kids, and you know, the genre of music I think was attractive, right? And I think we built a lot of affinity. At that time, there was a lot of movement in the youth movement going on, right? And so in the mariachi scene,
movement,
in the mariachi movement, right? Not a lot of solidified programs, so we're kind of in that impetus of that. I remember calling Richard Carranza over at Pueblo High School, right, and say, Richard, give me some music. I need some, you know, do you have anything? Because I mean, I could read and knew theory, but I didn't have all the music for the kids. So he goes, come over, and he had, you know, these big bins of music in his file cabinets, and he said, here, take what you want. At that time, he was in the middle of building a curriculum, right?
For Pueblo.
For Pueblo, and then for what ended up being a TUSD curriculum for mariachi music, right? And so it was on the onset of that we built, I think, a good program that's still going strong today.
Yeah, he was interviewed, by the way, all of you who watched the show, and the interview with Dr. Leiva with Carranza, you know, he's always great, and, you know, he's gone so far as well, like you have. But yeah, so going from the mariachi program, being a rockero, and then moving towards going to Harvard.
Yeah.
Tell us about that experience also, because, you know, my wife Corina and I, who I'm going to be talking in one of these programs as well, we have the Ivy League program, but you were one of the first ones to get out there from Tucson. Anyway.
Yeah, it was right place at the right time. I mean, I never thought I'd be going to Harvard. I mean, I grew up in the Sunnyside community, proud Blue Devil, proud graduate of that system. You know, I'm fortunate to be a first-generation college-going student, but, you know, I was not the stellar, straight A, you know, that pathway, right? I think we're good students. And so when this idea came along, I was actually working at assistant principal over at Hohokam Middle School. Got a great relationship with our Pascoyaki community. That was just a blessing to be part of that. I remember though when I was asked to be part of that leadership team, the tribe had walked onto the school march and demanded that they get rid of all the administration the year before. I mean, there were just 0% of students were passing any of the state tests. It was a shame. It was really, unfortunately, the dumping ground, right, for a lot of mediocre staff and students at that time, historically, right? And so there was opportunity to be part of a turnaround team at that school, and I felt like we did some really good work. John Michael, he was kind of the last of those Tyrannosaurus Rex principals at that time, asked me to join his team. The leadership at the district said, hey, we need to put good people there and really do right by our Pascoyaki community. And it was in that experience, as we began to turn around the school, that there was an intern working with Dr. Stan Paz at the time. Antonio Cediel, who was coming, he was part of the Harvard program. So he come and said, hey, you should apply, you guys are doing great work. And I'm like, Harvard? I'm not gonna get into Harvard.
Really?
Yeah, so you know, he encouraged me, took the GRE. Long story short, had the opportunity to be part of the Urban Superintendent's program. I think it was there that pathway of thinking about other opportunities for leadership came about. I think it's funny because, you know, Richard and I think we all had affinity to broader
some
leadership.
Parallel,
yeah,
you know.
But never in my mind did I, you know, really realize what those opportunities lent themselves by being able to attend Harvard, working in Boston Public Schools, and then ultimately coming back and getting into leadership, higher leadership positions here in TUSD, which was fun. I think brought me back. I gotta tell the story because I think it's relevant to. Became the language acquisition director back in TUSD after that experience with Harvard, which was, I think, what elevated me. But that was a time when, you know, Tom Horn put all these anti-bilingual ed practices. There was just a lot of real oppressive policies that were challenging our community.
And anti-Chicano and Mexican ideas, which he's still trying to do that, even after being found by the lawsuit that we filed against him of racial animus against Chicanos, Mexican Americans. And it's amazing that he's funny. He just brought me back to that situation. It's terrible.
Yeah, and he's getting reelected. So there's something fundamentally, you know, wrong with our system in that regard. But it was fun to be fighting for our community and our kids, particularly in the language space, right? And really coming from a bilingual school, being a bilingual teacher, honoring the work that of bilingualism through music, ultimately really trying to advocate to make sure that it didn't get lost in the educational system.
And then, so you become superintendent of the Sunnyside School District, and I love to say that I'm very fond of your work. So I was cheerleading the board and the past superintendent to say, hey, this is the choice. Don't even do a national search. We want him to lead that district, and you've done great. And I think the district was very prepared for the pandemic, because you were, the laptop giveaway, the digital advantage, all those programs that you continue to support and thrive, and then go into the county. So tell us about this last turn that you've done from getting the district lined up, doing well for the schools, and I think also the educators, because I think they were enthused about your leadership, and then being called out to be an executive leader for the county.
Yeah, well, I think it's everyone's dream as an educator to serve in the community that served them as in their youth, right? And going to K-12 to kind of be in the same schools in the same neighborhood where I grew up, I think it was meaningful for me, right? It was important. Shout out to Blue Devil Wrestling. We just had this little bit of conversation, and you can't go wrong if you're, Sunnyside, the legacy that is. Coach Leon, great work for everything you do. But outside of that legacy, I think what we wanted to do at that time was really continue to build on the academic legacy. Great people coming out of Sunnyside, right? Individuals. Congressman Raul Aguirre, Sunnyside graduate, amongst many others. But at the same time, I want our district not to be known just for these, individuals, but for everyone coming out of that system, right? And so we really started capitalizing on what does a good educational system mean for a community of high poverty that has great grit and resilience, and making sure every single moment is geared at academic performance outside of the great academic athletics that they had there. And so that I think where I saw myself ending my career, right, in that space.
You got it done.
Yeah, but I had this opportunity. I know our county administrator, Jan Lesher, a wonderful woman, worked with Janet Napolitano, both at the state as a governor and then Homeland Security. Just one of the most brilliant women in our community. Met with me, we had some conversations. Long story short, I had the opportunity to now get into county government. Didn't know what necessarily expect, but I figured there were some ways in which my leadership can transfer, right? Some of that stuff that we learned, knowing the community, to really getting more into government and seeing how we can begin to kind of look at these big systems, right? Because a lot of it's systems work, right? We look at school systems, what are the broken systems that we can fix? Can we look at government in the same way, although the scale is larger, really thinking more deeply around, hey, I have some community, I think I have something to offer, and now, 16 months later, I'm still there and trying to kind of keep supporting that work.
And you do, and you're finding the answers, and we want to thank you on behalf of the community. Thank you for coming down and talking about your journey, and wishing you the best.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Steve Holmes, which is Assistant Deputy Pima County, right?
Deputy County Administrator.
Deputy County Administrator at the Pima County. We'd like to thank him. Remember to continue to watch us on Latino USA Television. We thank you. This is Raul Aguirre, La Voz, out of Tucson, Arizona.
Let's rock this joint! Hit it! Ese coco que quiere